Welcome, fellas and ladies, to another edition of the Archeryshack Shop Talk podcast. I'm Jeremy,
I'm TJ.
and we are glad that you are watching. So, we're back again. We're here to talk to y'all. We're glad you're listening, and we got a featured product we're going to get to talking about right out of the gate, and it is the Spot Hog Whippersnapper release. We ordered some of these last year. Honestly, I had never fooled with one, really hardly any Spot Hog release, and we ordered some Wise Guy wrist straps and the old Whippersnapper. And I really, for my particular hand, this thing fits it great. It's almost too small, but it's not quite. So I like it. It's a smooth trigger.
Mm-hmm.
We sold everyone we had last year. We made an ATA order, reordered them this year. Everybody's been handling them, looking at them, buying them, stuff. So for around the $100 price range, it is worth a look if you're looking for a handheld release. It's called the Whippersnapper. They make it in a 3 and 4 finger. I like the 3 finger. I'd actually claimed one last year and was shooting it a little bit. And somebody came in. I had ran out of them at the time, and they had to have one. I was like, here, I'll sell you mine. And I didn't get another one, so I need to claim one of these. But it's the thumb's adjustable. Everything's adjustable. It's a good, solid fill-in release. Spot Hog's a great company. They make great sights and releases and everything. So, wrists, check them out.
One thing I want to point out on this one is, most of them you either have to, push the thumb button, hook it to your loop, let it go, and it'll, or you got a sear button. With this one, you actually just take and push.
Yeah, it just clicks close. I don't know if clicks the word. You got to manually.
You got to push the thumb barrel up, and it will lock it in. So that's a pretty good little idea right there, because most everybody's.
Oh yeah.
Don't think of
They I was impressed with them last year. I mean, I still am, obviously, or I wouldn't order any, but just a good, simple. It's got a little bit of weight to it, so it ain't like it's plastic. It's all metal. It just feels good in your hand. So check them out.
Made in the USA out of Oregon.
Yeah, good folks. They Harrisburg, Oregon.
I couldn't remember where in Oregon. I know it was Oregon.
So anyway, check them out. We got a bunch. If you need one, call us.
Yep.
But we're back on the podcast. We're glad y'all are watching us, even though we look like a bunch of DAs sometimes, particularly me. We got some questions coming up. We got our live feed stuff we've been doing on Thursday nights, so thanks for watching that. Got some more giveaways in mind, all that kind of good stuff. We're kind of, I don't know, we're just always thinking of something new to do, that people would like to see, and what can we change and tinker. So if you know anything, feel free to reach out and tell us. Comment, archeryshack@gmail.com or 864-735-8484. Call us. We have a lot of people calling these days saying, hey, we watch y'all and whatever. So, kind of cool.
And also just leave us a comment here on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So, you ready for some questions?
I'm ready.
All right. First question we got today is, what does adjusting cable rod or flex roller do?
Yeah, so let's talk about cam lean. What causes cam lean is obviously you have to pull the cables out of the way of the arrow for the arrow to fly through the center shot riser. So that's where the cable guard or roller or whatever you got comes in. So, but at the same time, you really want those cables as close usually to the fletching as you can get them without them touching. That way you take as much stress as possible off of those limbs from twisting to the side, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I really think that's where a lot of these companies have went to a super wide limb, like Matthews and Prime, for a good example I'm just thinking of. I think that wide limb helps combat all that twist. But anyway, adjusting that rod or roller or whatever you want to call it, whatever you got on your bow, will increase or decrease the amount of torque on those limbs, which can change your paper tune. So there's more times than not we'll have just a little bit of a funky paper tune, left or right tear on a arrow, even though we got it dead down the center, and we'll fool with that rod or roller or flex guard, whatever it's got on it, just a tiny bit, and it'll clean up. So that's sort of everything in a nutshell. It'll do more than you think. It really will. And if you got just some bows, particularly older bows, have just got a static rod that can't be moved, you can change cable slides. Some of them are deeper, some of them are thinner. You get you something with a little bit bigger, get it closer to the fletchings, what I'm trying to say. So it affects the arrow more than you would think.
I agree.
You don't want to have it like a 64th from the fletching. You can have a little gap, but you also don't want it like 2 inches out from the fletching where you're really loading up those limbs. So, and that's where like yoke tuning comes in and 100 other things we could talk about, but that's just a quick answer.
Yep. All right. Have y'all used tack vanes?
We had some come in the other day on some arrows, 4-fletched. Anybody that remembers Marco vanes from 90s and 2000s, is when I remember them. It's like a hard, super slick plastic.
But it's still got a little flex in it.
Yeah. And they advertise that they're quiet, and I didn't go outside and shoot those. I should have, but I could see where they would be pretty quiet because there's not a lot of flop in them like a normal vane. You know what I mean? So I could see that being pretty quiet. But they shot good out of that particular bow we were working on, so that's my only dealings with them. I think we may have a sample pack or two from the ATA, but I hadn't fooled with them whatsoever.
Me neither.
So I can't really say a whole lot other than that one bow we tuned shot great with them.
All right. Next question. How often should I have my bow tuned?
It's up for debate. I mean, I guess we could talk about, like, does your bow go out of tune? And yeah and no. I mean, like, it definitely just, people don't understand if your bow is just sitting there. I mean, the strings and cables can definitely stretch over an extended period of time, so that can knock it out of tune. My recommendation is always, most hunters don't need strings and cables but about every, say, 3 years. That's just somebody that shoots in the backyard a little bit, mainly just gets their bow out a little bit before hunting season, fools around with their buddies in the backyard, and then it goes back up for gun season, which for us is about 75% of the people we deal with.
Yep.
Those people, I recommend a string about every 3 years because your string is drying out, even though if you're not shooting that much and that type of thing. Now, we've seen people take it to the extreme much longer than that. I'm just talking about this is what I would recommend. But I would drop it by a shop. We have a lot of people before hunting season just say, hey, can you just give this a glance over pretty much and make sure everything's good? And, I mean, all we're really doing is taking it to the vise, making sure the arrow's still level, checking the cam timing real quick, maybe firing it through paper, in a little 5-minute thing. And, I don't know, 80% of the time we hand it back to them and say, everything looks great, roll out, Yeah. Sometimes there'll be a little something to adjust on or whatever, so I would say if you're a hunter, before hunting season every year, go ahead and just have somebody look it over, or you do it yourself or whatever. If you're a tournament guy, I would do it every year. This is me, and I don't shoot near as much as we used to, but still, before every season, I'm putting new strings on. I'm completely retuning everything. You know what I mean? I'm starting almost from square one again, just because I want pretty much for that whole season everything to start out perfect. And then, if I have to finagle with it during the year, that's fine, but usually not. It's usually there, and I'm good.
And even, I'm sure this guy's probably a bow hunter or woman. But, just swing it by your shop. Say, hey, I just want to make sure everything's leveled up on it.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it falls out of a tree or you have a fall yourself, like walking in the woods, you get tripped up on a root or a vine and you fall, then, 9 times out of 10, you can put that bow back in the case and the next year you can pull it out and you should be hitting the same spot unless, like I say, strings are going to stretch, cables are going to stretch. It's just the nature of the beast. But, you know, and we may do this on a live. Just do some little tricks that we use. You know, just little tricks and tips to, to maybe avoid that trip to the shop.
Yeah.
That you can do at home.
Oh yeah, and it'd be easy to do. You know what I mean? I had thought about on a live or even a regular Sunday video, kind of going over if you wanted to do, because I get this question a lot. You know, like if I wanted to work on my boat at home, how much money do I need to spend?
That's one of our questions on here.
Oh well, wait a minute. We'll talk about it then. But yeah, like TJ said, and what I said, just before the season, either you look it over or have somebody look it over. The main thing is to make sure the arrow's still sitting right. Because if your cable stretches a little bit, it'll affect the knock of the loop, in other words, and it can kick it and move it up or down according to what stretches, and you can get some funky flight. So
yeah,
I'm not saying go have the full-blown tune done every year. I'm just saying at least have somebody look it over, just a quick check it out. And do it before 2 weeks before hunting season, because it kills me. And it's just the nature of the beast, and we're used to it now. But
yeah,
I mean, a month from hunting season and in, it just goes wild of people freaking out. They need a string. They need major stuff done. And it's like, you've had a whole year and you knew you needed this done. And now it's like they're agitated at us because we're 2 weeks behind. You know what I mean? It's like we're doing everything we can do. If you'd have just brought that thing in earlier,
here's the thing too. We get those people that come in 2 weeks before season and like, I need this thing ready to go for opening morning. I'm like, well, it's not going to happen here. We're 2 weeks behind. You'd be lucky to have it the week after it opens up.
And I hate telling people that.
I do too, but what bugs me and I get the most ill about is people will call the day of or the day before deer season. You can't even get in the door to the shop. Somebody's waiting or the phone's ringing off the hook. Can y'all get my bow fixed up for in the morning? I'm like, no. Well, you got 2 weeks. Was there anybody else that can do it? I said, here's a couple people, but they're going to tell you the exact same thing I said, except maybe even longer.
Yep.
So
that's what I get tickled at. We try to stay at about a 2 week during the busy season time frame, but there's a couple other local shops, and we'll say, well, here, call these people. And I remember one guy in particular, he left here mad, and this was 2 or 3, 4 years ago, and he went up to another shop, and I had told him 2 weeks, and it was about a week before the season. And he comes storming back in here a couple hours later, and that guy had told him 2 months. And I was like, it is. And I think he had a major issue, like his cable strands were cut or something big, And if we'll do anything we can do to help these people out, but it just ain't fair when there's 20 bows back here that's been waiting for us to be like, yep, we'll hook you up, So we just can't do it.
Nope.
Anyway, I don't know how we went down that. I think it was my fault down that.
This one's going to require a little bit of thinking.
Oh, Lord, I ain't good at that.
Me neither. Describe your shot process.
Man, that's something I don't think about. It's like that question of, do you hold your breath when you shoot? And I'm like, I don't know if I do or not, because I don't pay attention to it.
No.
I'm thinking, so I guess one big thing is to get the sight set. If we're talking 3D, for example, I'm just going to go through my whole regimen here. If I are shooting in the yard or whatever, I'm gonna make sure I know what the yardage is. I'm gonna get my sight set. I'm gonna get an arrow in the bow. And for me, on a 3D shoot, this would be a little bit different than like if I'm shooting my bow hunting bow. But I got a stand, most of us do, that clips on the limb, so the bow's sitting upright. I usually go ahead and click an arrow in it, so that's one less thing to worry about later. Get my sight set. Then I got my binoculars. And I'm looking for exact spot, I'm going to be looking at to hit. So then when I get up to shoot, I usually get my hand placement right, and there's just, each bow's got that certain feel, that it's right. Get my hand right, get my release on, and then I generally look at exactly the spot I want to hit. I come to full draw without really moving my point of vision. I bring the bow into what I'm looking at, and then start squeezing on the trigger, and that's how it works. If it'd be a lot different. Like, let's say if I'm hunting, I'm already going to have the arrow in. It's according to what the deer's doing. You know what I mean? Like, if they're jumping around a lot, usually I'll go ahead and hit a couple trees and know that's 25 yards, that's 37, that's whatever, to where if I got to shoot, I'm ready to roll. But if not, I'm probably clicking on my rangefinder, kind of wasting time for a minute until it's time to get ready. But it's not as much of a squeeze. It's more of a command. I'm ready to kill this deer. Let's let her rip type of thing. But sort of the same thing, though. I'm looking at exactly the spot I want to hit the whole time, getting the bow drawn, bringing it over to me, getting everything right, and then...
The biggest thing is, and I'm bad about this, if you're talking 3D, when you rotate in, you're going to have to shoot first. Well, my process goes out the window because I'm just thinking, okay, I got to get up here, get the yardage, make sure I got an error, make sure I set my sight tape. And that's why I hate going first. I like to be able, when I get to a target, I like to be able to take a breath and say, okay, get my range, set my sight, put my arrow in the bow. I can be looking through the binoculars, seeing where I want to aim, what I need to aim at, and I can see if an arrow or two is in the target, where they're setting in the target. I hate going first. I just really do.
It's funny because I'm the opposite. I do better going first for whatever reason. I don't know why. I like going first. And
I'm gonna go ahead and bring it up because I don't know why you like going first, because it evidently I strip your feathers off your hair. So
TJ lets me go first, hopes I get a good shot, and then he takes my fletching off.
But I just like that little extra second or two when I get to the target, because when I'm first, normally I'm always the last one to come up in the group, and when I go first, it just feels like I'm rushed. But so the big three things is I want to make sure I arrange my target, set my sight, and put an arrow in the bow. That third step is important.
Oh yeah.
Bow hunting, and it's really hard to describe a shot process because it's just second nature to us.
It is. It's hard to describe it to new people.
It is.
Sometimes we had a lady that it ain't really funny, but she couldn't remember to put the arrow in her bow, and she dry fired her bow. I don't know how many times, but to us it's just like we do it and don't think about it, and there's like 20 things that tell you the arrow's in the bow. You put it in there, you hear it when you're drawing, you look out of your peripheral and see it down there. But I guess for a newer person, it's not as common. So,
well, and I've done it. I've never come to full draw without an arrow in the bow. But I like I said, if I go first, I don't take that second to kind of just cool down or whatever. But I put my release on the bow and start to draw. I'm like, wait a minute, this don't feel right. And I look, I ain't got no air.
Yep.
So everybody's process is a little bit different.
Yeah.
You taught me how to shoot, so pretty much mine and your process is about the same.
I know. I'm just trying to think. It's, Steve Anderson, they call him the Big Cat. Shoots a lot of indoor type tournaments, target stuff. What if you're into that type of thing? Look him up and watch him, because he does this weird, like, I don't know, when he's about to draw, his bow goes way up and way down. Like, just watch his stabilizer. But he does the same thing every time. That's what's normal to him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be normal to me. When I'm coming to full draw, I draw a little bit above where we're going to be aiming at, and let it sort of settle. They say it takes a lot more muscles, if you draw below and try to bring it back up. And I'll agree with that, because if I get below, the target and start trying to fight it, if I don't let down, I'm going to make a low, bad shot always. So I draw a little bit above it and let it slowly float down. And I'm not doing like a drive-by, but I'm also not letting it lock, a foot below where I'm aiming and get stuck there. So Anyway, I guess that's the whole process is different
Yep.
for each person.
So, well, I hope we answered that guy's question.
Yeah.
It becomes second nature after a while. That's why it's hard to really explain it to somebody. Is just because you've done it for so long and it's just second nature. You don't
Yep.
really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How many turns can I let my bow out?
Seems like we've answered this one before, but that's fine.
Depending on the bow.
Yes, that's 100% the truth. I've seen bows you can only let off 3 turns, and then there's other bows you can let off like
12 or 13.
yeah. So we have to know what bow. I would. The best answer is going to be either get your owner's manual or look it up online, and it'll tell you, because I don't want to say, well, here's sort of the safe way of doing it, and it not be safe,
Yeah.
So, and I don't even want to talk about what the general is, because I'm scared you'll have a bow that you can only let off 3 or 4 turns, and I'll say let it off 7, and it'll blow up. So
yeah. We don't want
I've
that.
only had one bow in my time, the limb bolt, come out, and luckily it was a little kid's bow, and it was back at Bucks and Bass. It was a PSC Spider, and this kid was dying to have it, and I didn't let it off about an extra turn more than I was comfortable. And that kid almost got it back, and he's on the verge of like squalling. He had to have this bow. And me and Rusty were like, we're going to try to let it off a half turn, maybe one more turn. And me and him both had a hold of it, and literally the bolt came out. But luckily it had so little tension on it, we didn't get hurt. But it scared me enough with that little bow to where I don't ever want to see that again.
Yeah.
So yeah, look in your owner's manual. It'll tell you how many you can let it off. That'd be the safest bet.
Yeah. All right. We kind of touched on this one a minute ago, but cost to set up a small home shop to work on personal bows.
That's sort of a hard one according to exactly what you want to do, but I'm just going gut reaction. Let's say $800. Now this is to really work on your bow, not just to have like a vise and do a little tinkering. This is to straight up be able to change strings and everything and have legitimate stuff. So here's sort of what I would recommend, and like I think I said before, it'd be neat to just do a video on this. Get you a Last Chance Easy Green press. They're going for around $400, so that's going to be half of it right there. Go ahead and get you a nice vise.
Mm-hmm.
And there's several of them out there. We would probably recommend the Baker vise, and it's the one that grabs it by the handle and you can move it all over. So that's another around $250. So we're at $650. And then you just need a bunch of little tools. You know what I mean? Allen wrenches.
Aerosol.
Yeah, an aerosol. That's about $100. Now you can find all this used possibly. You could also go a lot cheaper by getting a portable press and spending, according to which one you get, let's just say $100 instead of $400. But I'm just talking about doing it right, but not going over $1,000. I'm trying to stick to around the $850 mark. That'd be Easy Green, Baker vise, all the little tools. You know, you need like a string separator to put peeps in with. You need serving. You need loop material. You need loop pliers. Just all the little, you need a few screwdrivers. You need all that kind of thing. And if you were to go that route, I'd say you'd be $850-ish. If you went, let's say, a Cinem press, which in my opinion is the best portable press going, aerosol and all the 9 yards, you could the whole 9 yards, you could probably get away for $400 to $500. But now the portable press has got a lot of advantages, but it's also not as easy to use as a whole nice bow press mounted on a bench. So let's just say that you could range really between about $300 and $1,000 and have everything you need. But that would, depend on, do you want real good stuff or sort of it'll work, but it's not the best stuff. If you didn't get the Baker vise, I've seen people buying these bike stands and using them as bow vices, and they're not near as adjustable, and you got to I think it grips the stabilizer and all this stuff, which is fine, especially for a home shop, and they're only about 30, 40, 50 bucks, but it's not great, so I don't know. There's 3 levels I guess you could be at. You could be at a couple $100, $600 to $800, or around $1,000, and around $1,000 will really get you some nice stuff.
Yeah.
So that's about it. Somebody is shooting. I thought somebody was outside. I brought up the camera a second ago. There's a down on our road we're on. There's the Anderson County Fire Training Facility, and then there's also
the city police training,
the city police shooting. What do you call it?
Shooting range.
Shooting range. Yeah. And occasionally they'll be down there, but something's shooting now. I don't know if it's them or somebody else, but anyway, we ain't shot.
All right. Are knock ties needed for loop installations?
No. I do them for a couple reasons. If you watch some of my tuning videos, I like that it don't pinch the arrow. I like that if you have to change your loop out for any reason, it keeps that same spot. But no, you don't have to use them. You could actually use those Viper, and in some videos I've used them, but use those Viper loop pliers. I would advise not really hammering down and getting it dug into the serving, because once it's dug into the serving, and what I mean by that is you're really giving it all she's got, and I don't care who served it, it will dig into that serving and separate it. But once you do that, it's there. And if you change the loop, you're going to reserve the center serving, and there's no twisting whatsoever of that loop. So if your peep's not perfect, you're in a mess. It causes a couple of problems, but you can take those Vipers or even some needle nose and give it a decent little snug, and it won't move. It'll work fine. Now, those Vipers are set at a predetermined distance. So if you're shooting a axis arrow that's got a smaller knock versus a standard size arrow, you're going to have a lot more slop than before. So, but no, you don't have to have them. Some people just put one on top or bottom. I put them on both on most bows. The only bow I'm not as concerned as far as tuning is a whisker biscuit. You know what I mean? But anyway, most biscuits I still do it, because if for whatever reason your loop frays up and you got to change it, you can change the loop and you're absolutely 100% not moving that knocking point.
Easy enough.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, we've had this conversation many a times, and we never get it right. But what do you think is the next big thing for bows?
Man, that's hard to say.
I mean, that was last year for ATA. Well, you can go back and listen to it on the podcast. I would have swore that the bow manufacturers this year would have been pushing for 400 feet per second.
I just don't think with the current
I was wrong.
Stuff is possible without reducing arrow weight. I think something will change, but so in my time, the big things I've seen, I guess, are speed's always been a thing. God, it's like a cannon went off.
Yeah, might be some tannerite.
Maybe. So speed's always been a thing, you know what I mean? Especially to me in the late 90s, it was speed, speed, speed. And I remember having some McPherson's and people buying McPherson's, and they had the real hatchet-style cams, 2-cam bows, and it sounded like a bomb going off itself, but they were fast,
Yeah.
And then Matthews did it. The MQ32 was really the first one, a little 30. In a time where 36 to 40-inch bows were the norm for hunting, they came out with a 32-inch bow, and then a couple years later, the SQ2, a 31-inch bow, and everybody was like, holy crap, these things are, for the most part, just as accurate for a bow hunter, and they're tiny. And I remember when that SQ2 came out, we sold them by the truckloads. And then the next big thing on my radar was parallel limbs, and to me that was a PSE thing. They came out with the X-Force bows, and it was so... Some of the shorter, like the SQ2, for example, had a fairly short riser, so you could still, and big old long limbs, it had a little bit of kick, and it was still kind of, you could move it a lot of torque type stuff. PSE comes out with the X-Force stuff, and it's got a long riser with these little tiny limbs, So now it just balances better. It shoots better. It's pretty fast. That was a big deal. And then carbon risers, Hoyt really High Country had them to start with, and I sold a lot of those back in like '02 and '03, but it did, for whatever reason, didn't catch on with them as big. But Hoyt took it to another level. You know what I mean? When the carbon element and matrix and all that came out, that was the thing on the scene.
Yep.
And then from there, it kind of went back into speed to me. Like the monster bows were big with Matthews. They got some speed to them. I didn't bring up the solo cam, but in its time, the solo cam was a big deal because of tuning issues. And then, but anyway, back to so speed kind of become a player again through the mid to late 2000s. And then,
but then also with the speed, we kind of flipped and we had everybody wanted kinetic energy.
Yeah. And then I feel like Levi and Elite brought up a big shootability thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let's put speed to the side almost, and let's make a bow that's good and shootable. And to me, that was when the limb stop era came about. I mean, they had been limb stops way before this. This is just when the masses started bringing them into us. The limb stop era came about, and you could get as much as 90% let off. And then that ushers us into the big let off era, which a lot of people did. You know what I mean? You had limb stops on Elite, and you get a lot of let off. PSC jumped on that boat. A lot of people jumped on that boat. And now, I feel like we're back at that. Let's not worry about speed too much. Let's get a good shootable bow, keep it around 340. And it's almost like the past year or two, it's been more about the look of the bow. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, with the primes we carry, they've got a million different color options of different camos and solid colors. And now Matthews with this ambush green is a huge hit,
Yeah.
So now it's like, let's make it really shootable.
And look good.
Yeah, let's make it really look good, because early 2000s, I don't remember anybody being like, I want a flow green string and fletchings to match and all this. That didn't exist. It was like, I want camo.
Yeah.
Sometime in the last, I don't know, 5 to 8 years is where I've seen it, is where people's really been like, I want my strings to match my wraps and my fletchings and a peep sight and my this and that and other, and that's cool, especially for me, because I'm like, I can really deck this thing out with, if you want flow orange or flow green or pink or whatever, we can go all out.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like doing that for people, but it's just I don't know what the new thing is.
Well, it really ain't a new thing. If you kind of go back through the years and look and everything, especially with us, we've seen so much. Late last year, early this year we're back to the heavy air kick, and when I mean heavy, or the front of center.
I gotta buy into that a little more, because I've always been under the thing of like, don't worry about it being super fast, although we can take it there. Don't worry about it being super heavy. Let's just shoot a good, solid, middle-of-the-road setup, and it's going to kill anything around here. But I was thinking about this last night. There's just as many people now as there was in 99. In 99, everybody wanted 300 feet per second. Got to have 300, and it was just when bows were getting over that. And I want the lightest air. I want that thing to smoke, because I'm going to outrun the speed of sound, but you're not, because it's over 1,100 feet per second. But anyway, now there's just as many people that we've seen that want like a 600 to 700 to 800 grain arrow and a lot of front of center and all this stuff. So I've got to get into that mode more than I have, because there's a lot of people.
It's trending.
It is. And I'm not a good trender, and that's bit me in the butt a few times. Like, the Whisker Biscuit was trending, and I was like, this is a piece of junk. And a year later, I was eating my words, because we sold over 200 of them at Bucks and Bass, and they tuned great, you know what I mean? And there's still a million of them out there, and we still sell a lot of them. So
they're super simple, and they're super tough. So,
but I don't know what the next big thing for bows is. I mean, they're already vibration free for the most part compared to what they were. I mean, there's always speed, but I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, it's like you got a couple things with speed. You either reduce the brace height and make it a little bit less shootable. You make it a super harsh draw cycle and make it less shootable, or you take away let off and make it less shootable. So I don't know.
I mean, you got gear head. Here's what I mean. The next thing I can see is somebody trying to fold it up and fit it in a backpack. But Gearhead's got those out there that are 20 inches axle to axle.
Yeah, they kind of thought outside the box, and I won't say they took off. We've ordered a couple, and they were great bows, but they're just people look at them and say, "What is that weird looking thing?"
Yeah,
so, I'll never forget Fred Bear. Round about early 2000, had a bow that did fold in half at the right above the grip. I mean, literally folded in half. The Borsellino Takedown. Look that up. That's something else there. But anyway, I don't know. It's gonna be something wild, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I've seen anything way out of the box in several years. Not that I can think of.
I don't think so. I mean,
you got Prime with the 2-track cams, but they've been out for a while, since 2013 now.
You got Bowtech and Elite and PSE that has where I know Bowtech has where you can adjust the cam left and right.
That's neat. But I think it may be overkill for average bow hunter too. You know what I mean? Like, do you really need that? And
then I know Elite has now where you can move the limb pocket. And can you move the cam on that one too? I can't remember.
I don't remember either.
But the PSC target bows, you can move the limb pocket. Also on the Evolve series, I think it was.
Crossbows have exploded.
Yeah,
and they've done a lot in the last few years. You know what I mean? Like, just look at Raven's the one I'm thinking about. It went from like your typical Barnett crossbow to a little
compact,
tiny, fast little crossbow. So
yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. I don't know what there could be. Some sort of a draw assist to where you're technically drawing more poundage than what you're actually pulling or something. Maybe that could get it over 400 feet per second, but I don't know what's coming.
I don't either. And it's just, like I said, it's hard to say because we've been wrong more times than we had anything right. But so who knows? Maybe a new era or something like that will come out.
Maybe
that'll be a heavy enough spine, but be light enough to.
Mm-hmm.
So, what you know about field archery?
A little bit. I got into it pretty heavy, like 2000 to 2003 or 4. What would they ask about it?
I just said field archery.
Oh,
I don't know if they need like a score or.
There's a bunch of different rounds, but ultimately, in general, you go as far back as 80 yards, and it's fun. It's still walking through the woods type of stuff like 3D, but it's longer shots, and you're shooting at dots. Some of the shots will fan, so like there'll be 4 spots, and like me and TJ and whoever else will be beside each other, we'd shoot a shot or two, move, rotate, and then there's walk-ups where you'd shoot at like 80 and then 71 or whatever. I'm just throwing out yardages, but what I could tell you is it's fun. It's known distance, out to 80 yards, and as close as a couple feet. I think it's 12 feet or something. So it's challenging. It's just we don't have much of it around here.
Mm-mm.
We got a couple field shoots for our state shoots, and we went to one at the beach
2 years ago.
2 or 3 years ago, but there's just not enough of it, I guess, to catch on around here. Now, I know it's huge in other places, but that's it. Longer shots, shorter shots, shooting at dots. That's it.
Yep. Now, this could go wrong in so many ways, but we're going to go there. Backyard shooters versus tournament shooters.
I guess we could just talk about that in general.
Yeah.
In the shop, I have the most trouble with getting people to go to a local shoot with us because they think if I say, hey, we're going to Kiwi Bowman, which is our local club, tomorrow to shoot a 3D tournament, they hear tournament and go, no, because in their head, they're thinking YouTube, there's Vegas, there's 4,000 people watching them. And I learned to quit calling them tournaments, and we'll say, hey, we're going to a 3D shoot tomorrow or a 3D range tomorrow, and we get a lot more people to go with us because they don't understand your local shoots generally just you and your buddies walking through the woods shooting at 3D targets.
Yeah.
But you know, our average customer, I'd say somewhere between 70 and 80% is just the guy that pulls his bow out in the summertime before hunting season, shoots out back with his kids or with his buddies, bow hunts the first few weeks until gun season kicks in and it gets cold, and then puts it back up till next year.
Yeah.
And that's fun. That's plenty of fun. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. Get you a 3D target and blast it. Tournament shooters, I would imagine overall for archery are less than 20%, probably even around 10% of the overall archery community. But I like shooting tournaments. I like doing everything. I like hunting. I like shooting tournaments. I like doing whatever. But
me too. And it's hard to say because, you know, there's so many different tournaments across the USA.
Yeah, and there's unknown ones and there's known ones, and then there's like total archery where you really back up far.
Home shots.
Yeah, there's just all kind of stuff.
So to try to group people up as backyard shooters or tournament shooters is kind of hard, but
yeah,
you know, like you say, the ones that what I would call a backyard shooter is one, you know, they shoot a little bit with their buddies through the year, and then they get real heavy into it in the backyard right before deer season. Then after that, you know, it's kind of done and over with.
But I don't know. It's fun. Any way you shoot a bow is fun.
That's right.
So have fun with it. Recurves, compounds, crossbows, shoot them. So I guess we're running out of time here, so we better wrap this one up. Thank y'all for watching or listening, whatever you're doing. Keep checking out our channel. Subscribe if you hadn't already. Share it with your buddies. We'll continue doing our live feeds and all that type of stuff. And I guess until next time, thank y'all for watching.
See y'all later.
See ya.